following the onset of the Middle East conflict that started in February this year. So we are 4 months into this conflict. And as government, we've continued to review the situation and ensure that we are supporting the country to remain supplied with petroleum products covering diesel, petrol, but also jet fuel for aviation. So overall, and we really want to thank the public for having walked that journey with us. You have been resilient as the public, as you supported us navigate this season. This is not just a Ugandan issue, it is a global phenomenon. We are going through unprecedented times, and for those who are following the global events, you will note that every country continues to navigate this particular conflict. So on behalf of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, I wish to welcome you all to this briefing. And my team has been introduced. That is the team that is keeping Uganda served with petroleum products through this period, and as usual, their role. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development wishes to reassure the public, and therefore the entire country, that Uganda continues to maintain stable and secure supply of petroleum products. From the onset of this conflict, we did update you through our Honorable Minister that the arrangement we have in place, where the Uganda National Oil Company is importing product, together with their partner Vitol, we would ensure that the country remains served, and that remains the position. So we have not encountered major deficits in our supply chain thus far. You're aware, like I've already highlighted, that this continued supply, of course, continues to rely on the global supply chains. Our partner, who has the ability to diversify the sourcing of petroleum products, continues to ensure that they are bringing on board new sources of supply for petroleum products. Previously, we were picking the bulk of our petroleum products from the area surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, where we have seen the conflict affect the supply. When we were briefing you in the last few months, we highlighted that Uganda was still bringing in product that we had ordered before the conflict, that is January, February, and as we enter May, June, we are starting now to lift product post the conflict. Now, this product is priced based on the prevailing international prices, what we call the Platts, but also, of course, takes into recognition the freight, the cost of transportation, and other costs like insurance. So as we start lifting product that we ordered after the conflict, we are starting to bring in product priced based on the international prices following the commencement of the conflict. You will note that the dollar of a barrel in terms of the crude oil price has doubled. By the time the conflict began, the dollar, a barrel was going at $65 in terms of price of the crude oil. Today, when we entered March, the barrel went up to about $120 per barrel, almost double the price before the conflict. So what does this mean? As we enter the month of May, going into June, we are starting to see an appreciation in the price, and I believe you've already seen this on your different pump stations where you access this petroleum product. So with the current increase in retail pump prices, we are working with the oil marketing companies to ensure that it is reflective of these actual changes in the international petroleum product prices. We have been engaging them actively, and that's why today we have a representative from the oil marketing companies, and they have committed to ensure they work with government and we manage this incoming price. In the next few months, we continue to monitor, of course, the progress of this conflict, which we expect that as we enter June, hopefully it will subside. And once that happens, we enter what we call the recovery months of this conflict, probably 3 to 4 months of recovery for us to get back to normal operations to the extent that is possible. So we want to assure Ugandans as we go through these few months, May and June, where we will see a moderate increase in price, we continue to evaluate the global situation, and we will keep reviewing these prices. And as we return to normal operations in the coming months, definitely we'll also review these prices to mirror the global movement in the petroleum products prices. So we are committed to work with the oil marketing companies, but also the Uganda National Oil Company as the ministry to ensure that you, the public, continue to access this product at acceptable prices. But as we do this, we are also studying the national dynamics. We saw a new trend where petroleum products were leaving Uganda and going across to our neighbors. We saw this in the border post at Busia, but also at Jumani, Malaba, Kasese, areas of Kabale, Kisoro, and we worked hard, and we want to thank the Office of the President and the resident district commissioners, the RDCs, that have supported us to address that aspect that had emerged in our value chain. Of course, this was driven by the fact that the petroleum products within the country were slightly cheaper than our neighbors, and so it made sense that they seek to lift product from Uganda. But that has been managed, and we continue to monitor the border posts closely to ensure that we are addressing that phenomena. The other aspect that we continue to work on is work with the government of Kenya and the Kenya Pipeline Company to ensure swift evacuation of product so that the market remains served. And indeed, the teams from the National Oil Company, UNOC, but also the ministry team from the Petroleum Supply Department, we've been dispatching them every other week to Kenya to ensure that we are unlocking all product that needs to come into the country. So with those efforts, we want once again to assure the public that we remain served with sufficient petroleum products, and we continue to place our orders month on month to ensure that the country is not depleted of product. Now, as we do that, we also are evaluating our other bottlenecks within the country, and we are supporting UNOC to address issues concerning strategic reserves and stocks. So we are supporting the Uganda National Oil Company, number one, to revamp and expand the storage terminals in Jinja. Jinja Storage Terminal accommodates about 30 million liters of product. We consume 8 million liters per day. And we are working with UNOC within the limitations of that facility to expand it to add another 10 million liters. And that project is on course. We are also supporting UNOC, working with their partner Vito, to establish a new storage terminal in the outskirts of Kampala as you enter Impigi, Namwabula. This will be a 320 million liter facility, and that is able to serve us, it gives us another 30 days of security stocks. So that project is on track. The financing has been found, so it's not a financing issue. We are now in full mode implementation. And we expect in the coming about 18 months that project will be concluded. As we advance these interventions, we also have the long-term interventions that we are looking at. Ultimately, our security of supply will be guaranteed when we establish our local refinery in Uganda. And indeed, we are working together with our partner in the private sector, Alpha MBM, to advance the development of the 60,000 barrels per day refinery to be located in Chikube, close to Hoima. And that project is on course. We are advancing the front-end engineering designs, and we should make FID, the final investment decision for this project, early next year. That will be our ultimate solution to these global supply disruptions. So as government, we are committed to ensuring that we support the security of supply of the country in the short term, medium term, and long term. Now, looking at the implication of these prices that we are starting to bring in, moderate, the increment won't be significant, but we want to prepare the public for that increment. We also want to encourage you to look at other modalities to regulate your movements, transportation, so that you keep that within your means, affordability. So carpooling and other options, we want to encourage you to do that so that we traverse this period and get back to normal operations in the coming months. So as the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, working with the Uganda National Oil Company, we want to once again reassure the country that we remain safe in terms of our supplies, working with UNOC and Vito, our partner. Number two, we want to reassure the public, even as we start to bring in the slightly higher priced product, we will walk this journey with you. We are putting in mechanisms, working with the oil marketing companies to ensure that this increment is not enormous and is not impeding to your operations as the public. So we are committed to support you during this period as the government. It is our obligation, and we will ensure that we go through this together. And number three, long term, we will ensure the continued sustainable supply of petroleum products into the country, including looking at alternative routes beyond Kenya, because we are currently bringing in over 90% of our product through Kenya because they have a petroleum products pipeline from Mombasa to Eldoret, which makes it cheaper for us to bring in product. But we are diversifying our routes. Although we are bringing in about 5% through Tanzania, we are working with the government of Tanzania to see how they set up infrastructure that will support delivery of product to Uganda. So a possible refined products pipeline, extending their railway system to areas of Mwanza so that we are able to lift by ship and dock at Kauku. So the government is thinking out of the box, and we are committed to ensure for the short term, but also medium term and long term, that Uganda remains securely supplied with petroleum product. That remains our commitment. We want to thank you, and we look forward to interacting with the fourth estate that has walked this journey with us. Thank you very much. Is continued to serve this at higher prices. Now, in terms of the drivers for these prices, like I indicated, it's just beyond the price on the international market. We have the freight costs, the cost of bringing in the product, but also insurance of this product or cargo, and inflation costs. So you will note that when the conflict started in February, within a month or two, the dollar rate had already gone up from about 3,600 shillings exchange rate to 3,800 shillings. That was the main contributor to that increment that we might have experienced during that period. And we continued to engage the oil marketing companies at that time to ensure that indeed the pump price is reflective of only the impact of the inflation costs, and which we ascertained, and we ensured we managed at the time. But as we enter May, June, where we're already in May ending, I've indicated that we are now going to feel beyond just the inflation costs. We are now starting to bring in product that we ordered after February. So we are starting to feel that price of crude oil that jumped from $65 per barrel, initially clocking at $120 per barrel in March, and came back a little down, but it keeps fluctuating. So we keep monitoring that. So Joanne, that's the first part. Then why did we have deficiencies or supply gaps? Yet we have sufficient supply guaranteed by our current arrangement between UNOC and Vitol. I explained it. Uganda, under this arrangement, we were able to keep our prices within an allowable limit. So as we entered the conflict in the region, our prices were much lower than our neighbors. So naturally, that forces our neighbors to look to us for supply. So we had panic buying, especially around the border posts, and that in a way reduced the supplies that were available for Uganda. But you will note in the last few weeks we've worked with the different districts, especially Office of the President and the resident district commissioners and other security organs, and we've ensured we manage that. For example, we were having tankers, even sometimes bozers. We saw bozers, construction bozers in Busia, coming in and fueling. So we had to stop those bulk purchases that are not justified. And as a result, we then gained a level of stability. And in the last few weeks, you've not had major supply gaps. Now, the other aspect that drove that, like I said, we rely on the Kenyan infrastructure, both at the port where we receive the product, but also through the Kenya pipeline system. And we are not the only ones in this system. So we work with Kenya to ensure that our product is offloaded and dispatched on time. But sometimes, depending on what is happening at our neighbors, there might be some challenges. So we keep engaging them. We are engaging Kenya on an ongoing basis to ensure that, as scheduled, our vessels are offloaded and that product is loaded into the Kenya pipeline system. So we continue to rely on our neighbors, but like I indicated, our long-term solution to that is to indeed advance our refinery of 60,000 barrels per day that we plan to then upgrade later to 120,000 barrels per day. Joanne, you still asked whether there was deliberate hoarding. In some instances, but we have a mechanism. Immediately we suspected any possible practices of hoarding. Working with the Petroleum Supply Department, we triggered our mechanisms of monitoring the retail sellers, but also wholesalers, to ensure that the hoarding practices are addressed. And indeed, if this had continued, would have revoked a number of licenses of those retailers. That's why we continue to engage the oil marketing companies to desist from hoarding and ensuring that every product they have that needs to go into the market is released into the market. And I'll give the Reverend Kwasibwe, Commissioner Supply, shortly to speak to how we continue to monitor on the hoarding side. Joanne, you were proposing subsidies for the period we are entering into, where we are going to see a slight hike in price. The increment is moderate. It is not onerous on the consumer. We will walk the journey with you. We don't expect the oil companies to exceed, the oil marketing companies to exceed the margins that they are getting today. We know the price UNOC is picking this product, so we know UNOC is supplying the oil marketing companies at what price, and therefore we are able to monitor and ensure that the pump price is reflective of these external factors and not a tendency for OMCs to increase their margins beyond the expected limit. So that, working with UNOC and the Petroleum Supply Department in the ministry, we will monitor and manage. So subsidies, we don't encourage subsidies as a country. They are not sustainable. We don't know when this conflict will ultimately end, so we don't want to put government in a difficult position. However, there are mechanisms we are undertaking, like I said, ensuring that we manage the margins, both within UNOC but also the oil marketing companies, so that the price is within the acceptable limits.